Hey there, it's Seb Frey here with another exciting episode of It's a Seb Show. Well, it's Monday, it's a brand new week, and guess what? I am back in business, baby. That's right. They have now modified the shelter-in-place ordinances for Santa Clara County and Santa Cruz County, where I do most of my business, and in fact, this is now true throughout the greater San Francisco Bay Area, which is that you can now, once again, sell homes while someone is living there. So let's just recap a little bit. So when they put shelter in place in initially throughout the Bay Area and Santa Cruz, the rule was that nobody could go and see any houses. All houses had to be sold completely virtually. You could never go and see it. Well, it wasn't too long before they eased up that restriction, and they said, hey, if you have a vacant house where nobody resides there, then you can show that, as long as you do, in fact, follow all these, social distancing protocols and whatnot. So for several weeks, probably about 4 to 5 weeks, somewhere around there, it was possible to show vacant houses. Unfortunately, only something like 15 to 20% of houses are actually sold vacant. The vast majority of houses are sold when somebody is living in there. And it's very difficult to sell a home which you can't go and see. I know there's this whole thing about like virtual showings and FaceTiming and like, Matterport 3D, like virtual tours of the houses and whatnot. And that might work for somebody who's buying like an investment property, or they need to do like a 1031 exchange for tax purposes or something like that. But most people who are going to want to live in a house are not going to completely virtually buy the house, right? At some point, before they close escrow, they're going to want to come into the house and make sure that it feels good, right? But now, as of last week on Friday, I believe it was, we now have new updated orders that say you can sell a home with somebody who lives in the home, although that person cannot be physically present in the house while it's being shown. Actually, I don't believe they can be physically present on the property. They must leave the property, and any visitor to the house must, of course, have a mask and gloves and booties, and the house must be disinfected after they leave, and all that stuff, right? So it's not exactly like it was before. Also, there still are no open houses. Open houses are prohibited, so there won't be any of that. And so we can get back to business, but it's not business like before. And in fact, as the real estate industry has to adapt to all kinds of changes, I mean, like, it's the same thing that you've seen in the stores, right? They have the markers on the floor, stay 6 feet apart, right? This is the kind of restrictions that we're going to have to live with for quite some time. And I'm telling you what, hey, please do your part to abide by these restrictions. My neighbor over the weekend, he had like a crazy party. There were like 20 people there. I guess it was a grandpa's birthday or something like that, but it was a heck of a shindig they had going on. And, okay, whatever. I'm not one to judge, but I'm just saying that I think that we need to take this thing very seriously as the economy begins to open up and we begin to resume our normal lives. And a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, coronavirus, it's not that lethal. Well, it may not be that lethal, but you know what? It does spread very easily. At my local natural food store here in Aptos, there's actually like 3 natural food stores here in Aptos or whatever, but they had 14 cases of coronavirus. I'm not sure how many people actually work there, not a large number, but it does show that it is highly contagious, right? And, some people will be very susceptible to dying with coronavirus. Some people will have no symptoms at all. But in fact, the mortality rate, it's nothing, right? I mean, like, it's like 1% or 2% or 3% or somewhere in those numbers. And you're saying, well, that's a risk I'm willing to take, and it's not really a risk that I'm willing to take or not take. It's just like, it is it, right? So what we can do is we can try to mitigate that risk. And if I were to die from coronavirus, first of all, here's not a very fun way to go, but if I were to die, I wouldn't care because I'd be dead. But who would care? My wife and my kids and all kinds of people who know and love me. There are a few of them. They would be pretty bummed out, right? I mean, like, it would be a tragedy, and it would alter the course of their lives, probably not in a good way for many, many years to come, right? So every life is important. I mean, even if people who are living in old folks' homes, right, their lives are important too. Every life matters, right? Every life matters. It's funny, like, my kids are 8 and 11, so it wasn't that long ago that my wife was going through her pregnancy, and I was going through all that with them, and like every single thing we could do to minimize the risk to the unborn children, that's what we did, right? I mean, like, no cat litter, no sushi, right? Like, I forget whatever it was, right? But there's a lot of things they said say, well, this might slightly elevate your chance of, a miscarriage or whatever, right? Like, we would do everything we could to really bring that risk down. And I think that's the same level of care we need to have with the coronavirus. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure that I'm wearing my personal protective equipment, my mask, my gloves, whatever else I need to do, because I owe that to my family to really take the best care of myself as I possibly can, so that I don't get sick, and I probably won't die. But you know what? 1% chance, 2% chance, 3% chance, that's too much of a chance. I really, really don't want to see my chance anywhere near that level. So I'm going to make sure that when I am doing my business, when I'm showing property, when I'm meeting clients, I'm going to make sure that I do use all the personal protective equipment that you're supposed to be using, social distancing, and all of that, because I want to make sure that everyone is taken care of. All right, well, that is it for this episode of Seb Frey TV. I hope you have enjoyed watching it. Would you do me a favor? Would you give me a thumbs up? Would you give me a like? Would you give me a share or comment? I would really appreciate that. That would be super awesome. All right, well, that is it for this episode of It's a Seb Show. I will have another episode up again before too long.